Gratuit, lieu d'échange et de vie où l'on vient s'habiller, se nourrir, se loger et même se faire soigner. Mais c'est avant tout une nouvelle scène pour leur théâtre guérilla.
Les diggers s'affranchissent de la propriété privée. Tout est libre et gratuit.
When they emerged in the Haight-Ashbury in the fall of 1966, they saw themselves as situated between the New Left, which was very strong in the Bay Area, not only in Berkeley but also in San Francisco. But they did not consider themselves hippies, although they lived among the hippies. They did not think that the hippies had any kind of a program that would bring about long-lasting changes, even though they sympathized with some of the practices of the hippies, including the use of psychedelic drugs to disrupt the conditioning of the dominant culture.
LSD, peyote, champignons, les drogues hallucinogènes font flasher des milliers de jeunes. Elles ouvrent les portes de la perception, aident à transcender la pensée ordinaire, à explorer l'inconscient. Pour certains, c'est une expérience quasi religieuse qui a ses gourous. Timothy Leary, le pape du LSD, et Ken Kesey, organisateur des acid tests. La révolution psychédélique bouleverse la peinture, la musique, la littérature et l'ordre du monde.
And psychedelics certainly opened up the world and made people see things in a very, very different way. To me, the most important LSD trips I ever took were the first 2 or 3. That's where you really got an idea of, wow, the world is not the way I've been taught at all. But then the trick was to learn how to do it without the drugs. That's taken a long time.
I remember a big moment for me was I was sitting at this desk I had in the Mime Troupe office as the publicity director. And Emmett Grogan walked by. He says, "Hey, here's a beer. You want a beer?" I said, "Sure." I took the beer and I noticed the cap came off a little loose. This should have been an indication. But I drank the beer and about 15 minutes later everything started feeling strange, and I started kind of trembling and my skin was feeling odd and I didn't know quite what was going on. And I just let go. And I didn't realize until sometime later that I'd been dosed with LSD, but I believe that was the time we were having a party at Schrader Street. And I think that was maybe the night that Jane and I actually got together. Fortunately, we managed to pull out before we got too deep into any kind of dangerous drugs, but we used to, in the old days, we would take LSD, Jane and I, as a matter of course, 2 or 3 times a week, and just go out into the streets. That's what you did. You didn't, go to the country and wait for a beautiful, quiet, peaceful moment. You took LSD and you ran right out of the streets for the action, whatever it may be.
It didn't change my life, no. But my life, I'd already been involved in sitting zazen and stuff like that. I'd already been doing a lot of interior searching and facing, so I wasn't a shock to me. People that lied to themselves about themselves got into a lot of trouble with it. Personally, I think it's worth it, because I wouldn't want to live without knowing who I was, or hiding from myself, and unfortunately a lot of people do. I don't think that's a solution to anything. I don't know that psychedelics is a necessary part of it. For some people it opened up their lives, for some people it didn't. I had found my revelations in other directions.
There was always a sort of ongoing conflict between the Diggers and the Oracle, because the Oracle sort of stood for the visionary, psychedelic, meditative, philosophical aspect of the culture, and the Diggers were concerned with how do you live day to day, how do you get your food, how do you survive in a culture that's gone mad, and how do you survive from bad trips and bad drugs, and where do you live, and so on. So we really were complementary aspects of the culture, but there was some conflict between us.
we definitely were something different than that. We were not simply celebrating, the religious experience of LSD. We were trying to build the, cultural infrastructure, as it were, upon which could become the launching pad for a new way of life.
We knew that the media had convinced the entire American population under 30 that San Francisco was the place to go. We knew this in January. And we decided that this was an opportunity to have an anarchist theater university of the streets. That if we could attack people's consciousness when they came, that when they left, because we knew that they would leave, when they went back, they would take something of the experience that they'd had in the Haight-Ashbury.
Their formulation was that the culture was the base and everything else was built on that. And with this analysis, you should not worry about changing the politics, because if you change the culture, the politics would change along with that. So they thought that it would be possible to radicalize the hippies in a way that would create another force for change, but to change the culture. And along with that, then the assumption that the politics would change also. So they were not hippies, and they were not members of the New Left. They represented a new force in 60s youth culture at that time.
Had been held, and we felt that that was something of a big media event, and the Diggers wanted to throw a party for San Francisco to show how different things could be.
There are no ways of love but beautiful. I love you, all of them. I love you. Your cock in my hand stirs like a bird in my fingers. As you swell and grow hard in my hand, forcing my fingers open with your rigid strength, you are beautiful. They also got very upset at speaking about sex openly, and that a woman should speak about sex openly and about enjoying it. Thanks to the police force of San Francisco. It became a very well-known poem, and a lot of people learned a lot and got freed a lot from it. Because a lot of people, it seems, had the same feelings but not the language, and enjoyed being able to present the languages, including a lot of women who were able to present this as their feelings. So it did a lot of freeing.
Les femmes diggers descendent dans les rues, inviter les hommes d'affaires à prendre leur journée et les rejoindre sur étage bleu.
multiple threads of revolution at that period. The Black Panthers were in Oakland. The New Left radicals were on the campuses. The war resistors were a group. The civil rights people were a group. Black freedom people. So did we think there was a revolution? Yes, there was a revolution in progress. Were the Diggers part of that? Definitely part of it. And if we had our way, we wanted to infuse the rest of it with the same idea.